I spent 40 years doing everything right, and I'm sitting here at 71 wondering if that was the biggest mistake of my life. Not a day goes by that I don't think about it, not one. You work, you save, you keep your head down, you follow the rules they told you to follow. And then one day you look up and realize the people who never bothered with any of that are living in bigger houses, taking trips, laughing at dinners you weren't invited to. I don't know what to do with that. I really don't. But I'm going to talk about it today because I've been carrying it long enough. My name is Robert. I'm 71 years old. I live alone in a 2-bedroom house in Dayton, Ohio. Same house I've been in since 1989. The second bedroom hasn't been used in years. I keep the door closed. It's easier that way. My wife, Carol, she passed in 2019. Heart failure. She was 66. We'd been married 31 years. After she went, the house got very quiet. It's still quiet. I make coffee every morning at 6:15, not because I need to be up, but because my body doesn't know it's retired. I sit at the kitchen table. I drink it black the way I always have, and I watch the backyard through the window. There's a bird feeder out there Carol put up in maybe 2014. I still fill it. I don't know why exactly. Maybe just to have something to do. I worked for 38 years as a purchasing coordinator for a manufacturing company called Hargrove Industrial, based just outside of Dayton. I started there in 1981 when I was 28. I was reliable. I was never late. I never called in sick unless I truly couldn't move. I turned down 2 job offers from other companies because I believed in loyalty. I believed that if you gave everything to a place, they'd take care of you. I genuinely believed that. They told me they valued me. My manager at the time, a man named Gerald Watts, he'd say, "Robert, you're the backbone of this department." He'd say it and I'd feel proud. I'd go home and tell Carol and she'd smile and say, "See? All that hard work is worth something." I retired in 2019, same year Carol died, as it happens. The company gave me a plaque and a handshake. I got my pension, which comes to about $1,200 a month. Between that and Social Security, I bring in just under $2,300 a month. My mortgage is paid off, thank God. But between property taxes, utilities, groceries, medications, I take 4 different ones now, and car insurance, I clear maybe $200 at the end of the month if I'm careful. $200 after 38 years. I have a brother named Dennis. He's 68, 3 years younger than me. Dennis and I grew up in the same house in Springfield, Ohio. Same parents, same neighborhood. Our father worked at a factory. Our mother cleaned houses. They weren't people with a lot of money, but they raised us to be honest. Work hard, pay your debts, don't cut corners. That's what they taught us. I took that seriously. Dennis did not. Dennis dropped out of college after 1 semester in 1975. My parents were devastated. He bounced around for a few years, worked at a bar, did some construction, sold cars for a while. Nothing stuck. He got into real estate in the mid-'80s, but not in any formal way. He was doing what they called flipping before anyone called it that. Buying rundown properties, fixing them up just enough, selling them fast. Some of it was, let's say, creatively financed. There were periods where he owed money to people and you didn't ask who. My parents used to call me about Dennis, my mother especially. She'd say, "Robert, your brother's going to end up in serious trouble one day." And I'd agree. I'd think to myself, at least I'm not doing it that way. At least I'm doing it right. I want to tell you about a specific afternoon. It was July of 2003. Dennis called me out of nowhere. We weren't talking much at that point, and he said he wanted to meet for lunch. We went to a place called Brennan's Grill on Far Hills Avenue. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I had taken the afternoon off work, which I almost never did. We sat down and he ordered a steak. I ordered a sandwich. And he told me he'd just sold a property in Columbus for $420,000. He'd bought it 3 years earlier for $98,000. He said it like it was nothing. He smiled and said, "Bobby, you should think about getting into this." He called me Bobby, which I hate. The rules are different than what people tell you. You don't have to work for someone your whole life. I told him I was happy where I was. I told him stability mattered. I told him Carol and I were saving for retirement and that we had a plan. He just nodded. He didn't argue. He paid the bill. He insisted. And we went our separate ways. I drove back to work and sat at my desk and felt, honestly, a little superior. I felt superior to my own brother, because I thought I was the one doing it correctly. Dennis is now living in a 4-bedroom house in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's been there since 2014. He's got money, real money. Not extravagant, but comfortable in a way I will never be comfortable. He travels. He went to Portugal last spring. He's been to Italy twice. He helps his kids with things, his grandkids. He's not perfect, Dennis. He's been married 3 times. He has relationships that are complicated. He's made choices I wouldn't make. But he is not sitting in a 2-bedroom house in Dayton counting his medications and hoping the furnace doesn't break this winter. And I am. There's a man I worked with for many years named Phil Caruso. Phil and I started at Hargrove within 6 months of each other. We were friendly, ate lunch together sometimes, talked about the Browns, complained about the same things. Phil left the company in 1994. He told me he was going to start his own business doing HVAC installation. I thought he was crazy. I thought he was throwing away a good thing. I remember standing in the parking lot when he cleaned out his desk. He put his things in a cardboard box, shook my hand, and said, "Robert, life's too short to work for somebody else's dream." I told him good luck, and I meant it, but I also thought he'd be back within a year asking for his job back. He never came back. His business, Caruso Heating and Cooling, has been operating for 30 years now. He's got 12 employees. I drove past his shop last fall on Route 48, and there were 4 vans in the parking lot with his name on the side. I just kept driving. I'm not saying Phil did anything wrong. I'm not saying Dennis did anything wrong, not really. What I'm saying is that somewhere along the way, I accepted a story about how life works that turned out to be incomplete. Work hard, stay loyal, follow the rules, and you'll be taken care of. That was the deal I thought I was making. But nobody signed that deal. It wasn't a contract. It was just something I told myself so I could get up and go to work every morning for 38 years. And here's the part that I keep coming back to, the part that keeps me up some nights. It's not just the money. It's the time. I work through my kids' childhoods in a way I'm not proud of. My daughter Melissa, she's 43 now. We're not close. She lives in Charlotte. She calls on my birthday, at Christmas. We're polite to each other. But when she was growing up, I was at that office. I was staying late because Gerald Watts needed the quarterly reports early. I was going in on Saturday mornings because there was inventory to reconcile. I missed her school play in November of 1991. She was playing the narrator in something, I don't even remember what. And I missed it because there was a problem with a supplier in Michigan, and I was the only one who knew how to handle it. She's never said anything about it directly, but I know she remembers. You can tell. My son David, he's 41. David and I had a falling out in 2016 over something I'm not going to get into fully today. It was about Carol's health, about how I was handling it, about some things I said and some things I didn't say. We haven't spoken in 2 years. I have 2 grandchildren through David, a boy named James who's 11, and a girl named Sophie who's 8. I've met them maybe 4 or 5 times. I think about James and Sophie more than I think about most things. I wonder if they even know my name. I'm not telling you all this for sympathy. I want to be clear about that. I'm telling you because I think some of you out there are in the middle of it right now. You're 45, 50 years old. You're doing what you were told to do. You're playing by the rules. And you're watching other people. People you went to school with. People in your own family. Living in a way that doesn't seem fair. And you tell yourself they took shortcuts. You tell yourself they'll pay for it eventually. You tell yourself patience is a virtue, and the right way always wins in the end. Maybe that's true sometimes. But it wasn't true for me, and I've had to sit with that. If you've stayed this long, I want to say something to you directly. It means a lot to me that you're here, it really does. I don't have many people to talk to these days. Most of the friends I had are gone, moved away, got sick, drifted. My neighbor, Frank Bolden, passed in February. We used to stand at the fence and talk about the weather, and about our yards, and about nothing in particular. That was enough. I miss that. So if you'd consider subscribing to this channel, or leaving a comment down below, even just to say you listened. That matters to me more than I can probably explain right now. And if something I'm saying is landing for you, share it with someone. Someone who might need to hear they're not alone in this feeling. All right, let me finish what I was saying. The moment I keep coming back to, the one that really crystallized all of this for me, happened at Christmas of 2022. Dennis invited me to come to Scottsdale. I hadn't seen him in about 4 years at that point, not since a brief visit at Carol's funeral. He said he wanted the family together. His kids were going to be there, some cousins, a few people I barely knew. I almost didn't go. I almost said I had plans, which would have been a lie. But something made me book the flight. I checked my bank account 3 times before I did it. That's how tight things are. And I went. The house was beautiful. Not a mansion, nothing over the top, but warm and well put together. He had a Christmas tree that must have been 12 feet tall. His kitchen had a big island in the middle with bar stools, and there were people sitting around it laughing and drinking wine. And his daughter was making tamales because her husband is from New Mexico, and that's their tradition now. And I sat at the end of that kitchen island, and I watched all of it, and I felt something I was not expecting to feel. I felt like a guest. Not in a rude way. Dennis was kind to me, genuinely. But I felt like I was visiting someone else's life. Like I had been standing outside a window my whole life, pressing my nose against the glass, doing all the things you're supposed to do to earn your way inside. And somehow the door was still locked for me. Dennis pulled me aside later that evening. We were standing on his back patio. It was maybe 9 o'clock, warm even in December the way Scottsdale is. He handed me a glass of bourbon and he said, "Bobby, I know things have been hard. I know you're still in that house alone." He paused, and then he said, "I've thought a lot about how different our lives went. I don't think it was because you made mistakes. I think you just played a game that wasn't set up for you to win." I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't say anything for a long time. I just looked at the sky. You can actually see the stars in Scottsdale, which you can't in Dayton. And I held that glass of bourbon and I thought about our father. I thought about what he'd say if he could see us both. I think he'd be more proud of me in some ways. But I also think he'd understand why I was standing on that patio feeling like I'd missed something I can't get back. I'm not angry at Dennis. I want to make that clear. I'm not angry at Phil Caruso. I'm not even angry at Hargrove Industrial for handing me a plaque and sending me home after 38 years. They gave me what they said they'd give me. I'm the one who thought it would feel like more. What I am is honest with myself now in a way I wasn't for most of my life. I told myself certain stories because they made it easier to keep going. And some of those stories were wrong. Not wrong in a way where someone lied to me exactly, but wrong in the sense that the world doesn't actually sort itself out the way your parents told you it would. Hard work is not a guarantee. Loyalty is not a currency. Following the rules is not a promise. I'm 71 years old and I'm learning this now. That's the part that stings. Not that I'm learning it, but that it took this long. If you're younger than me and you're watching this, and I hope some of you are, I'm not saying break all the rules. I'm not saying be like Dennis. I'm saying look up from whatever you're doing and ask yourself who made the rules you're following and what they're actually getting you. Ask yourself that now, while you still have time to change direction. Because one day you'll be sitting in a kitchen in Dayton at 6:15 in the morning, drinking black coffee, watching birds at a feeder your wife put up before she died, and you'll do the math on your life. And whatever that math tells you, you'll have to live with it. I live with mine, every day. I'm not going to pretend that's easy, but I'll tell you this, talking about it helps. And someone out there listening, it helps more than I expected it to. So if you've been here the whole time, thank you. I mean that. I know you could have been doing something else with these minutes and you chose to sit here with me instead. And that's not nothing. That's actually quite a lot. If this hit somewhere real for you, if you've felt that same feeling of playing by the rules and watching the game go some other direction, please share this with someone, a friend, a brother or sister, someone you know who's carrying this kind of quiet weight and maybe hasn't found the words for it yet. And if you want to subscribe, I'd be grateful. Not for numbers or any of that. Just because knowing someone out there might hear what I have to say next time. It makes the mornings a little easier. It makes this house a little less quiet. Take care of yourselves. I mean it.